Okay, hi Rita. I think I have pretty closely replicated the mistakes that I saw from the photo you sent. Hopefully we can get those taken care of pretty quickly and get you right back on your way. There are 2 stitches involved in the mistake that I see. The first one on your right hand needle and the first one on your left hand needle. Thankfully, they're pretty simple to fix. So I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate how we would go about doing that. So I'm gonna go for the one on my left-hand needle first. You can see in here, there is this strand coming across that stitch that should be obviously pulled up and into the work. So I'm going to slip the stitch off of my left-hand needle with the tip of the right. I'm going to grasp the stitch in my thumb and forefinger, the stitch underneath, that is. I'm going to slide the tip of my right hand needle out, and I'm going to pull this strand up and out. I'm going to put it back behind the stitch to start with, just to get it out of the way. Now, the stitch underneath needs to come through the stitch on my needle from the back through to the front. So I'm going to put that one up and over the stitch as well. Now when I pull apart my work, I can see that there are 2 strands back there. One is lower and one is higher. The one lower down is the one that I'm going to grab first with the tip of my right hand needle. I'm going to take my left hand needle and pull that stitch up and over that strand so that it comes up and through, just like that. I'm going to grab the next strand that's sitting behind it. I'm going to slide my needle tip out, grasping the stitch in my thumb and forefinger so that I can bring this strand of yarn up to the front of the work. Then I'm going to insert my needle tip back through, making sure not to split the strands. I want the whole strand of yarn up on my needle. Now, some people find it easier to correct mistakes using a crochet hook. You don't have to. I could certainly come through this stitch from the back to the front, loop my yarn up and over the needle tip, and just pull it up and through. But if you find it easier to use a crochet hook, you can certainly come through the stitch from the back of your work toward the front, grab that laddered strand with the crochet hook, and pull it up and through. And then put the stitch back on your left-hand needle. Now you can see part of the reason, oh, there's a mistake in mine. Part of the reason I am alternating the way I pull those stitches through is that I am creating the purl ridges alternating with the knit V's. When I'm knitting every row, the row that I'm currently knitting is producing a V, while on the reverse side, it's producing these bumps or ridges. So when I knit every row, if the row alternates from right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side, then the work also alternates a row of ridges and a row of V's, a row of ridges, a row of V's. So to create the ridges, I pull the yarn through from the front of my work through to the back. And for the V's, it's the opposite. I pull from the back through to the front. And I just have to make sure that I alternate those every time to make the texture of my garter stitch match. So now let's fix the stitch on our right hand needle. The mistake is a little bit further down, so we're gonna have to pull out some more rows, but it's just as easy as the stitch on the left hand needle. So once again, I'm gonna grasp the stitch in my thumb and forefinger, slide my needle tip out. This first one, I can just pull the working yarn to bring it out. I'm going to pull out one strand. This strand is already free. And here's the next strand that I need to worry about. Actually, do I need to drop down one more row? Yes. So here is my stitch. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 strands actually that I am dealing with here. I'm going to put them all, flip them all back behind my stitch just to make them easier to deal with for the moment. Now, if you look at the way these come out of my work, you can see that they're ordered top to bottom. So I want to work from the bottom up to the top. I can see that the last row to have been worked on this particular stitch was a little purl bump, a little ridge. So I want the next one to be a V. That means that I can take my needle tip, grab that lowest strand, and I can pull it up and through the stitch to create a knit V. Now I'm going to grab it with my thumb and forefinger because I need to take the third strand, the next lowest strand. It's a little bit finagly here. I need to bring it around to the front of my work because I'm going to take with my needle tip and kind of bringing my thumb up to help. I'm going to bring the stitch from the front, or the strand from the front through to the back. Again, being careful not to split my yarn. Now the next one will be the opposite. It'll be pulled through from the back to the front. And the next one, the opposite of that. From the front to the back. I'm going to put it back on my left-hand needle facing the correct direction. And now I'm ready to knit it. And even though there's a bit of slack, the stitches don't look completely the same. By the time I wash it, block it, work it a few more rows, a lot of that tension is going to work itself out. If it doesn't, something I do sometimes is that you can see that this kind of loose purl bump continues down here. And I just sort of pull some of the slack out of the stitches. Oops, come on, let go. And let it go into the neighboring stitches, just kind of pulling the stitches gently to try and redistribute some of that slack. So I hope that helps. I hope you can get back on track. I know this has been quite a process. So thank you, and let me know if you have any other problems.